Go save
Yeah.
the cash on the fuel.
Oh,
My
I've been trying to
drivers,
tell people that for years, that those points that everybody's so obsessed with are actually trash.
yeah, they're trash. You're going to get a damn free roller dog. You'll spend $40 more or $80 more in fuel to get a free freaking junk roller dog.
Yeah.
You know?
I was always now I did this backwards then because I always did it this way. I always went and I looked at my quarterly IFTA report, and it came out, of course, every 3 months. I would get the
Yeah.
report and it would tell me what the cost was in each place, each state, at the cost was for IFTA per mile or per gallon. So
Yeah.
Ohio might be 28 cents. Forgive me, it's been a minute. Uh, Pennsylvania may be 32 cents. So I always over purchased in the higher states because I still got a fuel discount and it wound up being about the same anyway. And I would over purchase in Pennsylvania because I knew that if I bought 200 gallons in Pennsylvania and only ran 40 miles in the state, and again, I'm using exaggerations, but example, I had so much credit that it would offset the states I didn't buy the purchase or I didn't purchase fuel in that were lower costs anyway. Illinois was one that I always bought in. Pennsylvania was one I bought in. Well, actually, I think Ohio, because Ohio and Pennsylvania were so darn close all the time. But I always over purchased at this higher states, so I would get the credit back.
Right. You were chasing the IFTA credit.
And that was the
But
wrong way to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if
No kidding.
raw fuel price was 30 cents a gallon cheaper than Pennsylvania, and you just went in and bought 200 gallons, you just took $60 out of your pocket to get IFTA credit.
Holy cow, I never knew that.
So you lost over the years thousands and thousands of dollars. I could cut my fuel bill by making my guys fuel at certain places. By watching the raw net fuel price, I could save $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a truck a year.
That's huge.
But even my drivers would want to. But fuel's cheaper over here at the pump. You're right, it is at the pump. But let's take away this stuff and buy fuel by the raw, because you're buying the fuel anyway.
Yep.
Okay, so don't worry about the IFTA tax, because for Ohio, you're going to pay the 30 cents or whatever it is. For Pennsylvania, you're going to pay the 74 cents a gallon. For Illinois, you're going to pay, and Illinois actually has very high fuel prices. So you could have bought in Indiana or somewhere else and probably saved 30, 40 cents a gallon by shopping your fuel by the raw fuel price. The IFTA tax will be whatever it is. Now, if you have a truck that gets 9 miles to the gallon, of course, you're going to pay less tax in that state for 600 miles that you ran because you get better fuel mileage, right? If you have a truck, an auto carrier that gets 4.4 mile a gallon average, I'm going to pay more tax in Pennsylvania than you are, even if you're getting 6, because I get less fuel mileage per gallon. It's all based on the miles you ran and your average MPG for that quarter.
Rocky, is there, for educational purposes, for those that might be still in the room listening or driving, so I can't tell, is there a place is there one designated place or some place that we can send drivers to in order for them to be able to look at that raw fuel price?
Oh, I've got the app right here. It's right here. Raw Fuel 2.0.
Raw Fuel 2.0, okay.
Yeah, and there's several out there. If you're working for a carrier and they have the ComData or EFS app, they may have where you can see your discounted price. Like with Landstar, we would go into the app and I would look at my route for the day leaving Florida. Say I'm going to Indiana. And then, all right, I got enough fuel. I can make it as far as, say Nashville area. Where is my cheapest raw fuel at between here and there to get me enough to the cheapest raw fuel state the next day? I wouldn't stop twice a day to save a couple of cents, but along my route, I would look at my route, how far can I go, and where is the cheapest fuel? Can I pick up 50 gallons here, and then the next day fill up 300 gallons over here for 12 cents less raw fuel price? then I would do that. But I wouldn't hop, buying 50 at a time every day to get here to there, whatever. I would get to my cheapest raw fuel price place and I would buy the cheapest raw fuel. Because IFTA, and that's what guys don't understand, you're going to pay IFTA no matter what, right? If you ran 600 miles there and you average 6 mile per gallon, you're going to pay IFTA for 100 gallons of fuel there, whether you bought fuel or not. So always buy it. And that's where IFTA is, if you really understand IFTA and do some research, there is some good information. Now, there's a lot of bad, okay? There's a lot of guys that are going to say, a lot of people out there, oh, you always want to buy it in Pennsylvania if you're up there, and you always want to buy it like Illinois. You always want to buy it here or there. No, you don't. You don't want to buy it just because the tax covers tax for the other state. I would rather write IFTA a check for $300 at the end of the quarter or $400, knowing that on that quarter I saved $4,000 on raw fuel.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where guys.
Thank you, Rocky.
That's where guys in this industry, they trip over dollars to pick up dimes, right? And so they're losing all of these dollars because they don't understand how IFTA works. They don't understand how many things work in the trucking industry, right? And there's been so much misinformation for many, many years. And I think me and Mike, we were talking about it here a few nights ago about IFTA, weren't we? About buying fuel, buy raw fuel.
Yeah.
And, but you could get 100 guys in here on this room, ask every one of them about IFTA and how they buy fuel. Okay, the company guys and most owner operators are going to say, well, I buy fuel at the pilot no matter what because they give me double points. Well, you just spent an extra $80 in fuel to get $6 worth of points.
Yeah.
To go in there and get a roller dog or some stupid ass stuffed animal that they sell you for $20 that cost them 30 cents. Stay out of the truck stop, go in, pay for your damn fuel, and leave. I don't and get a shower. Who cares about points? Those points are not putting dollars in my bank account.
I was just surfing through and caught you guys, and it was pretty crazy. I saw you were pulling up Raw Fuel 2.0. I'm actually the inventor of that app.
Are
know
you
that, sir.
serious?
No,
Yes,
this is the guy. He's the one that told me about it.
Which one are
Yeah.
you on here so I can follow you?
Scott, right down here.
Yeah. Do I
Yep.
already follow you, Scott? Yep, I guess I already do follow you.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, we started a tech company 2 years ago, and the goal was a really sophisticated app for small carriers and owner operators. And we wanted to get our feet wet first with something small and simple. And I've tried for 20 years to explain to guys how IFTA actually works. And just like Rocky said, if you don't truly understand it, you're wasting a ton of money every year on fuel. So we put together that app, and that was our first one we published.
Does
And
it keep up? Does the app keep up daily with the different fuel stops?
Well, the IFTA only changes every quarter, depending on, some states will change their IFTA tax a little bit.
Yeah,
every
but
quarter.
I mean the fuel price, like when it changes at the pump, goes up and down. Does it keep
Oh,
up?
you put the
with
pump
the
here.
current-
I'll show you. So you put the price in. Here, let's just do this. I'll walk everybody through it here real quick since I got it up.
Sure.
There we go.
Yeah, because fuel changes daily.
Right.
The raw fuel changes daily, and I was wondering if the raw fuel,
So,
if it
right
keeps
here-
up daily.
Right here, you just want to know, you go up here and you just enter your state, you pick it out. So we'll just say, since I'm in Pennsylvania, we'll choose Pennsylvania. If everybody can see it. And then you enter in up here your pump price. So we'll just say $3.33 for shits and giggles, and you click calculate. And then down here, it shows you the difference. If we can see it, there's your pump, and then there's your raw fuel price.
Okay.
And as you do states, it keeps it over here for you. So your list is there.
You can
Okay.
compare across,
But-
up to 5 states at a time. It'll let you list. And the reason we kept it open like that is because everybody's got a different fuel card. Everybody gets different discounts. So for
Right.
us to make it where anybody could use it, no matter what, you just input whatever price you're looking at and hit the state.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. It's
Okay,
amazing.
so as fuel
It's
changes,
absolutely
'cause-
amazing.
Because I know, like when we would use our Landstar app here, I'm just using it because it's the last one that I used. We could put it to where click a box where it deducted if the deducted our discount, whatever, and gave us our actual price and the raw fuel price. Or we could uncheck the box and leave the discount off. But it would update daily because if like you said, it pretty much stays the same, the tax. But the fuel, like over here at the TA by me, it may be 4 cents a gallon raw cost cheaper than the Pilot across the street. And the price, I guess and the pump price, yeah, I haven't compared it actual pump price. So maybe if the pump price is the same, it would still give the same raw fuel price, I guess, depending what they
Yeah.
bought it for or whatever.
Right.
It's
Regardless,
more
regardless of
technical.
what,
Well, think of it as you're paying the same tax in the state no matter what the fuel price is
Right.
at the pump. So you
Yeah.
just got to look at that point. Now you're looking at what if you're going directly off pump price, it would be which one has the cheaper pump price. If you
Right.
have a fuel card, then it's a matter of who's giving you what station
Whatever
is giving you the
discount,
cheapest
yeah.
price, and then
Right,
you would
right,
look,
right.
and then you're still going to. It's kind of like the same pump price.
Right, right.
With me looking at the Pilot, she does that
Okay.
because I have the less IFTA option on the
Yep.
Pilot app or the Fuelbook app. So I'm able to when I showed it, if you look at the cheapest price for Pilot right now in the area, it would be $2.99, and that's all the way down in Virginia. But if you look at
Right.
the cheapest raw fuel price, it's right where I'm sitting at this Flying J, because
Yeah, okay.
you're taking out that IFTA tax, like we talked about, getting that actual raw fuel price, and that's
Right,
what's
right.
important. So
Yeah.
Now, one thing that app does do that none of the others I've ever seen will do is we update the Canadian and U.S. dollar exchange rate daily, 5 days a week. Bank of Canada updates the exchange rate. We keep that updated daily through the week. And if you're going from
Oh, yeah.
the U.S. to Canada or Canada to the U.S., you can convert liters to gallons.
yeah,
And you
right
can
Oh,
now,
that's
convert
awesome.
Canadian dollar to U.S. dollar and back and forth.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome
there.
for them guys that do the cross-border stuff.
Yeah,
Right
that saves a
there,
little
convert.
headache there.
Now, let me ask you, Scott, how many people do you have using the app?
The last time I looked, there was only about 100. But
Wow.
I've never really advertised it or tried to push it. And just like you were trying to explain to them, Rocky, it's a learning curve. You have to actually take the time to educate people and explain it to them first, because it's kind of like one of those things you don't know you need it because you don't know how that works. If you knew how it
Right.
worked, you'd know you needed it, and then everybody would be getting it.
Man, I was hoping you were going to tell me 100,000 or something. but that's-
No,
No.
I wish there was, but no. There's
Well, you know
only
what,
about
sir? I'm going to start
Can you
pushing
tell us
your
a little
app
bit
on the website and on the podcast for you. So,
Well, thank you. We have another app getting ready to come out here in just a few weeks that is groundbreaking. This thing will do about 196,000 calculations in 1.6 seconds. You can
Wow.
calculate any rate on any lane, anywhere, anytime. It includes every possible expense, includes taxes, everything. It had been reverse engineered to work backwards. So you tell me what you want to make at the end of the year, what kind of money your company wants to earn as a profit at the end of the year. We take those numbers and reverse engineer it and roll the taxes and every other expense into your rate. So when you charge that, that'd be your minimum rate to reach your profit goals for the year.
So you mean you could put in there like I want to have a 15% profit margin at the end of the year, and it reverse engineers from that?
Yes, sir. You can tell me
Nice.
what you want to make for profit as a driver for
Right,
your own salary. What your company wants to make as a percentage of the gross
right.
at the end of the year is profit. You can tell me what your factoring percentage is, your dispatch or carrier percentage is. It figures all of it. It's some of the
Nice.
most complex PhD
You
level
literally-
mathematics.
You, sir, just simplified the whole. There should be an owner operator or an independent out here that should not know their per mile operating cost. Utilizing that app, you just simplified it to the basic.
Well, and
There's-
this part of our thing that's taken us so long is that this is so revolutionary in what we're doing. It's never been done in any industry, reverse engineering this, and we have a patent that we filed for this. So as soon as our patent pending status is returned, we're going to go public with it.
Well, you
that'd be
just
good.
blew my
Sir.
spreadsheet out of the water, Scott. That's just kind of bullshit. You know, like what the hell, buddy? Like I'm over here presenting your raw fuel, and you're just blowing my spreadsheet out of the water. Like, what's up, dude?
Well, the thing of this is,
Congratulations, sir.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
thank you.
Now, was Raw Fuel 2.0 is the fuel app?
Yes. Raw fuel
Okay.
2.0. Yep.
And
All right.
and I've just got to put this one out there. I'm a company guy, and I'm going to start using that raw fuel because if my boss saves money, I get a raise somewhere down the road.
Right.
Well, it'll be installed on my phone before the end of this night is over.
There's also a map
I need a
page
driver
that
like
we
that
have on
company guy
there.
right there.
Sarah, I was just going to ask him. You don't happen to be looking for a job hauling cars, do you? I know somebody.
You
He
you
likes
can't
to-
afford me.
Yeah.
You guys couldn't afford me.
The app also
I paid
the
30. I
raw-
paid 30%.
Hey, Sarah, I'm gonna let you know a little secret. All you got to do is make sure he's got a lifetime supply of Snickers bars.
Oh, you're a dick.
Yeah, we'll try to spread that out around for you, Scott, because
Yeah.
you know these guys and there should not be an owner operator in a truck not using an app like that one or something, right? And these guys that are on here begging people to make minimum rates $5 a mile and stuff have no idea about this stuff because they don't do any research in the industry that they're in. And they have no idea that they could potentially save themselves thousands of dollars a year just by buying fuel by the raw fuel price.
Yep,
Well,
that's right.
And Scott, you're gonna have to
Well,
let us know when that app comes out because I'm gonna spread that one around.
Yes, sir. I sure will. This does
Absolutely.
plenty more too. Now we were talking about IFTA tax with the raw fuel app, but one thing about the fuel tax is you've got two states that have a fuel surcharge. That's Kentucky and Virginia,
Yeah.
and then you have 4 or 5 states there that have a weight distance tax. So those are things that are also calculated in this big app we're getting ready to come out with. It
Yeah.
routes you, and it routes you according. If you got hazmat, it routes you the right way. You get the right miles. It does everything. Tolls, and it's completely dynamic. It'll work for anything from a hot shot to a box truck to a flatbed to a dry van to a reefer. I've been in this 32 years, and I'm always been a numbers man.
Damn, you're ahead of me. April 4th, I'll be 32 years.
Yeah. Yep. So, I've done all of those things. So, I mean, I know how all the numbers work. I've owned my own trucking company. I've owned my own brokerage. I've been a lease operator. I've been owner operator lease to a company. I've owned my own authorities. You name it. Been doing it all. So, that thing is accurate, beyond accurate. It will absolutely blow your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna
Are you-
download it later in my truck, even though I don't buy fuel anymore. I don't have any trucks on the road anymore, but just so I know what it is. and can show guys and tell guys.
So I'm kind of curious. This is kind of off topic. How'd you get from trucking to a tech company?
Well, honestly, I had just bought it about 3 years ago. I had just bought a new truck. I'd only got to drive it for about 4 months, and I thought I had a heart attack. And I was in downtown St. Louis, of all places. Called an ambulance. They took me to the hospital, spent the day running tests on me. No heart attack. They couldn't find anything wrong with me, but I felt really, really weird. Just real discombobulated, kind of dizzy, just out of it. I just wasn't myself. So, long story short, 6 months worth of back and forth tests and everything else. They finally figured out it was my gallbladder. I had gallstones. It was doing associated pain, making it feel like I was having a heart attack. They removed my gallbladder, but all the pains went away. But one thing that stuck with me is I've got real bad ringing in my ears, and I've got just a little bit of vertigo. Now, could I still drive? Yes. Can I still pass a DOT physical? Yes. Do I feel 100% safe to get out there and be on the road around somebody's family? No. Because I feel like if something happened and I had a split second to react, I may not make it. And I'm not going to put nobody at risk, even though it's cost me a fortune and really my true career. So at that point, my trucking was over. I sold the truck. I still have ring here 3 years later. I still have dizziness and ringing in my ears. But the company that I was leased on to, the owner of the company has about 12 trucks. And he was running the whole fleet by himself, and it was just killing him. He hated it. Didn't have any spare time. And he asked me if I'd be willing to come over and be fleet manager and start helping him with all this stuff. And I did. So I've actually developed a TMS system just catered specifically for his company. It does everything from generating invoices to tracking payments to driver payroll. It does everything. So I built that for him, and when I did, he realized I was smarter than the average truck driver. So then we got into the idea of talking about apps and different things, and one thing led to another, and here came a tech company and an app out public.
Well, I'm gonna
That's
download
awesome.
it. I mean, because you're a truck driver, and you created the app. I mean,
Yeah,
can't get any better. Can't get any better than that.
well, and we shopped around for like a year before I ever started going ahead and learning all this and educating myself and going through all this to learn to do it myself. We had tried for almost a year to find a development company to build it for us. And this big app, by the time we had to do an NDA with them first, of course, so they couldn't steal our idea. And once they learned how sophisticated it was going to be and how much work it was going to be, the cheapest quote we had was $900,000. Highest, yeah, the highest one was 1.3 million.
And you're just going to hand it out there. You're not going to charge anybody for it.
Well, the big one is going to have to be charged for that because it's so much database that to running all these calculations and doing all this that it does, it would cost us a fortune if we had to do it for free. Now, raw fuel, it's free. I'm threw that one out there to try to help everybody out. Now, this big one that's coming out, it'll be $19.99 a month or $200 a year if you want to buy a whole year up front.
Yeah, but for $20 a month, for the fact that basically every owner operator would know their costs down to the penny. I mean, the money that you'd be saving utilizing the app compensate for the $20 that it costs to actually have the app.
Exactly. And there's an app out that's been out for years. I don't know if any of you guys know it. I used to use it when I was driving. It was called Toll Guru. And you could put in there and plug in your route, and it would show you what the tolls were going to cost you on a route, even for a commercial truck. Well, the last time I went and looked, like 2 years ago, they had started charging. They're like $30 a month just to be able to see what the tolls are on a route. And that's all it does. And a couple of these developers that we talked to, these companies, they had asked, what's your target? What are you planning on charging? I said, I want to keep it cheap. This is for the little guy. I'm one of them. I'm not trying to make this thing crazy expensive. The whole goal is to help people that's struggling. And if they're struggling, they can't pay $500 a month for something like that, because that's what he told me. He said, you are doing an enterprise level software, doing something that no other company has ever attempted to do, much less accomplished or done this way. You could easily charge $300 to $500 a month for this app. I said, yeah, I know I could, but I'm not going to. For one, I'm not greedy. I don't really give a shit about money. And for another, it defeats the entire purpose of trying to help the little guy. I'm one of them.
Yeah, and just like you say about the Toll Guru app, there's an app that's been out there for years, and I brought it up here the other day too, that Kevin Rutherford had. It had been free for years up until March or April of this year. It's $5 a month now, but his fuel gauges is what the app was. And every time you'd pull up in fuel, you'd click the app, you'd put in what you paid and how many gallons, and it picked up your location. You could, if there was 2 stops next door to each other, you'd click which one you're at, and you'd put in your odometer reading, and it would keep your 30, 60, 90, and lifetime fuel mileage. And it had been free since like 2007, 2008. And they had spent millions of dollars in this. And there's millions of fuel transactions in it. They went to charging $5 a month because back end of last year, they put almost $2 million into the app and for the database and the data storage and everything else. And this had been free. And he just could not absorb it anymore. The $5 a month still doesn't cover that maintenance cost and everything, but it covers, helps cover some. And people were bitching and complaining, and oh my God, at $5 a month, it's like, dude, if you don't have $5 a month and you're an owner operator to have that stuff and use that, it's pretty pitiful, because when guys start complaining about they need this a mile and that a mile, and when you ask them, well, what is your 30-day fuel mileage average? They pull a number out. Oh, I think it's like 7.2. Well, where'd you get that number from? I don't know. Well, how do you know? Okay, here's another thing about me and Mike talked for a long time this afternoon about maintenance stuff and all. How do you know if you have an injector problem or something going on, and that you have gone from a truck that was getting 8.6 to now for the last 30 days, you're down into 7.3, and it keeps getting worse? Well, you have a problem somewhere. You've either got boost leaks, you've got injector problems, you've got an issue going on somewhere if you've had these numbers for all this time, and now you see your mileage dropping. So these guys, they don't realize that by keeping those numbers and knowing those numbers of just your fuel mileage, 30, 60, 90, and lifetime averages, you can tell when there's something going wrong with your truck. Where when you don't keep track of it, you have no idea that you're losing all this money. Hey, I need a damn injector. Let me get in and get this thing checked out. Do I have a boost leak? Okay. Because a lot of these newer trucks don't even have boost gauges. So if you're, running down the road 65 miles an hour with no headwind, and you're running 18 pounds of boost when you should be running 4 pounds of boost or 6 pounds of boost, that boost is causing you to lose fuel. It's costing you a ton of money. And it could be as simple as a boost leak that will decrease your fuel economy, but you don't even know because you're not keeping your numbers.
And I'll tell you one trick from an old guy that's been doing it quite a while to everybody out there. When you check your oil and you pull that dipstick, have you a paper towel and wipe that dipstick on that paper towel and then smell of it. If it's got the least bit smell of diesel to it, you've got a fucking problem.
Right.
Yeah, my father and stepfather, that's when I went through training with them, and they're the ones that taught me from yardsticks and blindfolds and all my work. That was one of the things he told me, one of the first things he told me when checking the engine, you can pull that dipstick and find it's low or high or what the fuel or oil level is all day long, but until you smell it, you don't know what's going on inside the engine.
Right. You can smell it. And then, we talked also about doing oil samples, having oil bypass filters and doing oil samples every 25,000 miles. And me and Mike talked about one of mine, the guys at Blue Ribbon, Chris. They had 3 engines that they overhauled pretty close together. One of them was all Detroit parts. The other 2 were another brand. I'm not going to say to bash them on here. But between 80 and 100,000 miles, the other 2 oil sample came back when they did the oil samples at 75,000 on the engine, doing them every 25. They got the oil sample back, and it was showing high metals, and it was showing bearing wear, main bearings. So they pulled the pan, and sure enough, they were losing the main bearings. So having that $40, $50 oil sample saved them a complete engine. Right? It saved them a complete engine, because if they had kept going, it would have spun a bearing and took the engine out. But they caught it early enough by the oil sample, and they were able to pull the pan, drop the bearings out of it, put bearings in it, and the bearings were smoked with only like 83,000 miles on one, and the other one had right around 90 or something on it. And it was done with the same parts brand kit. And they also had failed, and it was the main bearings. So they would have spun a bearing in 2 engines, where that $100 between them 2 trucks on those 2 oil samples saved them $40,000. If you look at $20,000 an engine, right?
Yeah, and I always used to use Blackstone Laboratories. They were really good. Their oil samples were very self-explanatory. You didn't have to be a chemical engineer to understand what they were telling you. They would explain it to you.
Yeah, Blackstone's good. Hell, even if you're taking it and sending it off to Caterpillar, people don't realize you can just drop it off at a Cat dealer and they'll do it. Now, if you're doing oil samples at these speed codes on the bench machine, you might as well take that and just throw it in the garbage, because they are nowhere near accurate. Those machines are not kept up, and they're not cleaned properly, and that is not a lab. That little benchtop thing is it's a money grabbing piece of shit is what it is. Okay.
Yep.
So if you tell me, I get one done every once in a while when I go to a speed co, and they do it there on the bench for $25 or whatever, that is useless. That is a complete waste of money and is a scam. It is not giving you anything, because it's not a lab. And the problem with that machine is it's got the last guy's oil in it. When they suck yours up into it, it hasn't been cleaned. You actually need to send these to a lab that have people in a lab with lab coats on that pull your oil. They bring it up to temperature, okay, and then they do their lab work on it and look at it in microscopes and everything else, and get you all your information, and it'll be accurate information. One of my favorite ones, I use Blackstone some too, but my favorite was Polaris Labs. They got into such great detail, and before the owner of it, before he passed away, if there was a problem, and they still do now, but if there's a problem when they pull that, before you even get the email, your phone is ringing from them and they'll be telling you, hey, wherever you're at, you need to shut your engine off. You got this going on, and if it hadn't already blown up, it's about to. You're losing a cam, you're losing this. This is severe, right? Where Blackstone and them, they wouldn't call you, but they would give you still a good lab report. Where Polaris Lab was always really, really good, and they're probably the premium of them all. The only thing bad with Polaris Labs is when they do your oil sample, they are very picky on fuel dilution. So fuel dilution may come back at like a 0.2 or something, okay? And it will be flagged. They're not going to call you about it. But when they test your oil in every category, they're so sensitive to everything that it picks up the fuel in just a tiny little bit, man. It'll show a flag, but it's usually until it's above a 2, you don't have to worry about it. But the equipment is so sensitive, it picks up fuel like crazy. But just having oil samples.
Amazing
it does the same with water, antifreeze, dirt. It's looking for all sorts of things.
Yeah, yeah, and it gives you the additive package that's in the oil, right? You put down on your sheet when you send it in the brand of oil, what weight it is, and if you added a gallon or did you add 2 gallons of makeup and all that stuff. And then when they do it, you'll get all your levels back of the zinc and all the added up, whatever, moly and this and that, and they just go through the whole list, give you back a base number. And if the base comes back low, they'll tell you, put a lubrifiner filter on that has base in it, or crush up some Rolaids and throw them down the pipe and bring the base level back up in the oil. So, these guys, it's like for those that don't know, getting an oil sample is like you going and getting a complete full blood panel work done on yourself. Tells you everything, and can save you an engine.
Awesome. You gave me something to think about. That's something I didn't consider after 26 years.
Yeah, and having a bypass. Now, the newer trucks, Pat cars, the DD15s, and like the International S13 and them, they all have sort of a bypass filter on them. Some of them have it's like a cyclone type filter that goes in the housing, and that thing spins and filters, but they don't go as low as a traditional bypass filter that filters down to 2 or 3 microns. That every day you're running the truck, if you run for 10 hours, every drop of oil in your truck is back into the engine, filtered down to 2 microns, which is almost as clean as the oil came out of the jug, right? Or sometimes cleaner. And, so it's cleaning your oil like you just poured it out of the bottle back in your engine every day. So you pull an oil sample every 25,000 miles, send it in, you run another 20, you change your filter, your bypass filter, and then at 50,000 miles, you pull another oil sample, send it in, you change the bypass filter and the filters that are on the engine of the truck, the OEM filters. So every 50, you're changing all 3, if you got 2 oil filters or 1, whatever, you're changing all your oil filters and the bypass every 50,000. 25,000, you change the bypass. You change the, you pull your oil sample and send it in, and you change the oil. You dump the oil when the oil sample tells you need to dump the oil. And like I was talking with Cupcake today, one of my 2000 or 01, one of my Peterbilts with the C15 in it, we went to the bypass filtration on it and running synthetic oil in it. We went over 1 million miles with only 2 oil drains on that truck. One was at the break-in, after break-in, and that's when we dumped the factory oil and put synthetic in it. And then we did another one just over 600,000 miles because I had an injector go bad. Oil sample picked up fuel dilution, so we had the injector. Now, what if I hadn't have caught that injector by the oil sample and we ran another 100,000 miles? That fuel dilution would have ate up everything. I would have been putting a motor in this thing, right? But because of the oil sample and getting it back and seeing we had high fuel dilution, it went straight down here to Ring Power when they were still working on truck engines. And they went through their stuff, did their injector test and all, and sure enough, we had an injector leaking, putting fuel down into the crankcase, getting into the oil, diluting the oil. So we fixed that problem. We dumped the oil, put new oil in it, and when I sold that truck over 1 million miles, it still had that oil in it. And but we changed oil when the oil samples told us we needed to, not just because we thought we needed to. And you know how many oil samples would you typically do on 1 million miles? Doing them back in those days, 15,000. So if we do, let's see, 1 million miles, about 15,000. That's 66.6, say 66.6, so say 67 oil changes. 67 oil changes. Back then, we'll say $350. Okay, by doing that, I saved $23,450 on oil changes by having an oil bypass system and doing oil samples every 25,000 miles. And so, plus, I didn't have to go into the shop all the time and wait in line to get a damn oil change done and stuff. We greased the trucks ourselves. We greased them every 7,500 to 10,000 miles. So, and we would, change the bypass filter and the other two filters, throw a pan down, spin them off, and add our makeup oil. And, we had the oil sample in the bottle, send it off, and get the lab results back in a few days or a week. And, but we saved so many engines and so much money by running a bypass filtration.
Scott, I want to let you know I just added your raw fuel to our website, sir.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So all I have to do is look on there and click on the link, and it'll take them directly to the page.
Good deal. Yeah, I hope that helps a lot of people. There was a fellow I talked to in another live that I used to get on pretty regular called the Truckers Lounge. And he had, I think it was 6 or 7 cattle haulers. And I explained all that to him and told him about the app. And he and his driver started using it. And he got back on there. It was, I don't know, maybe a month later. And he heard me on there and he jumped on. He said, "Man, I want to thank you for telling me about it. I had no idea." He said, "I've already saved about $3,000 in fuel just in a matter of a month."
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find it kind of crazy, Scott? You've been in this business a long time. Do you find it kind of crazy that these guys are out here and they're just buying fuel like they do and have no research into the industry they're in on how to save money just by buying fuel that way? I mean, that's an instant raise, okay? Every penny that you save on fuel and everything else is an instant raise to your bank account. You don't have to go ask for more money, cry and beg for more money, demand minimum rates, anything else. That is an instant freaking raise in your pocket, thousands of dollars a year.
Yep, that's, if you save $3,000 or $4,000 a year doing it the right way, that's a set of drive tires. Virgin rubber,
Well,
this is why we preach education more than we do anything else. Education is 99% of the job. The other 1%, you can turn the steering wheel all day long. But without the education, you have no clue what you're doing. Most of them don't even know why they're doing it. They think it's about, chasing the almighty dollar. There's a lot more to the trucking that is right out the window.
Yeah. It is, and it's bad. And we try to tell people about it, and they'll spit in your face like, "Oh, you're crazy." And I'm like, dude, do you know if you just slow down a little bit and increase your fuel economy, that's instant money in your pocket? You're driving from here to there anyway. Okay, just slow down a little bit. And, when I quit running the 70, 75 mile an hour stuff and started running, we would run about 62, 63. Me and a couple of buddies of mine. It took us about 2 weeks to kind of get used to that, right? And of just setting the cruise back. But then after that, you know how much more relaxed I was at the end of the day? Not on the brakes, trying to jump out and pass somebody and moving back over and coming up on somebody slow again, and you're trying to run 75 and you're out to the left lane and back to the right and you're in and out and in and out. No. Do you know how much less stress there was just by slowing down? At the end of the day, it was like, man, what happened? Why am I not all stressed out? Why am I not wore out? Why does my head not feel like it's been rocking back and forth 5 million times today? My neck wore out from watching the mirrors and, trying to pass people and all that crap. Just slow down. And then when I started seeing, man, shit, I'm saving money because my fuel mileage went up damn near a mile a gallon. About every 10 miles an hour you slow down, you'll pick up about 1 mile per gallon. So, that's a pile of money. a
Yeah.
pile of money and less stress, but they all feel like they have to run 3,500, 4,000 miles a week. They're chasing miles instead of trying to run their business and slow down and save money, but also be making more money for the miles that you are running.
Well, and a lot of it is just education. They've never been taught. Especially somebody that's only ever working for a big company of some kind, and they tell them. A lot of them companies nowadays, they tell them where to stop and fuel,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they don't understand. There's a method to that. There's a method to that madness. Part of it might be because that company's getting a bigger discount that the driver's not seeing, but then a part of it too can very well be because of the IFTA tax.
The IFTA tax and then the raw fuel. You tell me one of these big mega fleets, Mesilla Valley and JB and Snyder, all of them, they're all about cutting costs everywhere they can. And that's why the driver gets a message, hey, you're going to stop here and you're going to fill up with fuel. Hey, you're going to stop here and get 50 gallons. And then tomorrow you're going to stop at this stop. Well, I don't want to go to that stop. I want to go to the one across the street. No, you're going to this one. And because they are in business to make money, they don't care about your feelings and which shower you like better, or you like McDonald's better than Arby's. They don't care about that. You're going where they're going to go and save money.
Yep.
They don't care that the Love's is giving you 5 points a gallon, and this one's only giving you 2 points. This one's going to save $80 on this fuel up. Of real money, not some imaginary point bullcrap.
Well, and that's the thing they don't understand. They'll go to the same place and at the end, I got 1,000 points, that's it. But I got 10,000 points this year.
Right.
Well, that's great. Do you realize that it cost you $40,000 for the 10,000 points?
Yeah. Well, but I got this free teddy bear that had on the end cap.
Yeah, I've got that shower. Okay, well, let's look at Lowe's just as an example. You can drive down the road, and I don't care where you are in this country. Lowe's is anywhere between 30 and 50 cents more than any other truck stop for fuel. The savings or not, it doesn't really make a difference as far as the price that you see driving down the road. I'm not talking about the programs or the raw fuel savings. It's 30 to 40 cents more per gallon for diesel. They're going to give you 3 points for every gallon. Okay, well, you filled up 100 gallons, you got 300 points. That's $3. That's
Right.
You need to keep in mind that's $3 for the 100 gallons that you just paid 40 cents more. You just paid $40 to get $3.
Right. Right.
Hey, I like my pilot points now.
You're not doing the math here, fellas.
Right. They're not looking at the dollars they're losing, when they go. And that's why these places do all these rewards and points and all this garbage, because the mentality and the lack of knowledge these people have, they get, that attracts these guys. Man, I'm going to get double points if I go over here, not realizing that those couple points just took $100 out of their pocket.
Well, and I've heard the same. I've heard the excuse. Well, I get points and I get a free shower, and I look right at them and I say, okay, well, let's use the same concept. You just pumped 100 gallons. You just got $3 in points, but you paid $40 more. That's $37. That shower costs 18 to 20 max if you pay cash out of your pocket. So you paid 20. So it's $23, but you gave them 40. You
Right.
realize they're still making $13 to $15 off of you, but they gave you a shower and they gave you 3 points, and you're whistling Dixie thinking that you just made out like a bandit. No,
Right.
They're the ones laughing in the home office because you're foolish enough to hand them $40 for $23 worth of merchandise.
Right.
And another
Yep.
thing, especially right now in wintertime, you got to watch. If you're going north, are you buying number 2 diesel, or are you buying a winter blend, or are you buying a winterized? Winterized
Right.
diesel is just number 2 diesel with an anti-gel additive added to it.
Yeah.
Winter blend is where they blend number 2 and number 1 diesel together. Me personally, I would never run a winter blend unless I was going way north where it was going to be 40 below. Because a winter blend, once you start blending over about 20% of number 1 diesel, you got to remember, ultra low sulfur diesel nowadays, none of it has enough sulfur in it to lubricate your pump and your injectors. The only
Right.
thing that lubricates it now are the waxes that are in it that gel up when it gets cold.
Yep.
Number 1 diesel has that stripped out of it. So if you start blending too much number 1 with number 2, you're actually reducing the lubricity of that fuel. So if you don't put some kind of additive in it to at least keep your injectors and your pump lubricated, you're asking for trouble. To me, I always just used a regular number 2 diesel, and I added my own winter, my gel additive to it because it had the lubricity in it, and it was going to keep it from gelling, and it was cheaper.
Well, I do a lot of North Dakota. In fact, that's weekly. I do North Dakota. And I've hit minus 30, minus 40 up there with the wind chill. And my go-to is I'll hit, especially when I'm coming out of the south, I'll hit Iowa. I'll put 100 gallons of number 1 in, but I'll also put a quart of house in each tank. That is always I have never not put house in with utilizing number 1. Number 1 is a good fuel, but you've got to, like you said, you've got to add something to it. You just run straight 1, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're just in a different kind of trouble. You think you're getting through the winterization, and that's fine. You will. The number 1 helps, but you're going to have more problems. You go back south, you're going to have more problems.
Not to mention the fact that number 1 diesel or even a blend of number 1, you get less fuel mileage with it. It doesn't burn as efficient as number 2.
No, it don't. No, it don't.
Well, let me ask you guys this, guys. You guys all have a lot more experience than I do. Well, since you guys brought up additives, what additives do you guys recommend?
Anti-gel.
Yeah,
If you're running,
Yeah, but
if you're run-
there's so many different anti-gels out there now. Which one's snake oil and which one's not?
Well, I tried them all. I had a 2012 ISX Cummins. And back then, I don't know about now, but back then, Cummins was very damn finicky about how much fuel additive you put in it. And if you dosed it too much with wrong one, it would derate. So I ended up going through all of them, and the only one I found at that time that wouldn't throw me into derate was Howes.
That's what I've got. I've got a 2012 ISX Cummins in a 386, and that's the only thing that works. If I add number 1, it's gotta be Howes. In fact, even when I run number 2, I usually run Howes a quart, half a quart in each tank every 3 fill-ups, but it's the only thing. I put anything else. If I put Lucas, if I do, I've tried them all. And that ISX that ISX got angry with me. But I go to, when I went and switched up completely to Howes, she runs like, she burns like a kitten.
Yeah, the Howes has been around for years, and that's always what I used to. And I used to keep a red bottle of the 911 in the bunks of all my trucks too, just in case. And always stay there. And fortunately, I never had to use it in any of them. Never had to replace that bottle, but kept it in there when I had drivers and stuff too, because you never knew, you got some fuel and you did freeze up or something. But I always did the Howes myself. And other than that, I would occasionally throw in a jug of maybe twice a year of the Lucas fuel, the injector cleaner and stuff. And years ago, used to use the Lucas oil stabilizer until I seen what it did to an engine and what it did to oil. And then I never put that shit in anything. I wouldn't put it in something that I was selling to somebody tomorrow.
I don't use any Lucas product anymore.
It,
I
yeah,
quit using that altogether.
it's
It's straight house, and I always stick to the Rotella T4 for the ISX that I've got.
Always heard
yeah.
people swear by Lucas, but all the research I've done on it, I never could see where it had any wear additives package in it. It was just a
There,
thick virgin oil. So if you
that's all
just
it
put,
was.
yeah, if you put a virgin straight oil into your regular motor oil and it doesn't have any wear additives packaged to it, you're diluting the wear additives that's in the oil that's already there. So I can't
Yeah.
see where that's a winner.
Were you just reading my
Well,
mind? Because it
I
does.
can tell you
That's all it does is it dilutes the additive package, and then it changes the viscosity of your oil, and it will block orifices and ports, especially during cold starts, because it is so thick. Your oil pump can't get oil pumped through the galleys and to your bearings and stuff, and it actually does more damage to those components inside the engine by adding that to your truck. Even if you're in the south all the time and it's hotter, all it does is dilute the additives and makes your oil pump and everything else work harder.
You the best
Sorry,
oil, the best
wait,
oil.
listen, yeah, Lucas, we're sorry, buddy, but we're all house people.
actually, I know Forrest, and he's already passed away. So
The best oil you can buy is Schaefer's. They're a small company. They're based in St. Louis, Missouri. That's the oldest oil company, lubrication company.
I think I've heard of them.
And they're the oldest ones in the United States. They started out back before there was any such thing as a gasoline or diesel engine. They started making grease for the old steam paddle wheel ships way back when.
Yeah.
And to this day, they still ship a bunch of oil to all these shipyards on the coasts and places where they change oil and do things with all these great big huge ocean going ships. I know because I've hauled it. But that is the best oil that you'll ever find. I watched a video. You can Google it and get on YouTube and look for Schaefer's. And you can find it on YouTube. They did a video where they had a Peterbilt with a 3406 in it, a Caterpillar. It had just over 1 million miles. They pulled it out to do an out-of-frame overhaul. And when they tore it apart, it looked just like it did the day they put it together. They took out micrometers and calipers and started micing the bearings, and they said, I can't believe this. These bearings are still within factory spec. They said, technically, all we got to do is put a gasket kit in it and put it back together. We could probably get another 1 million out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, their grease is all I use, and I used it for years. And one place here in Jackson, I used to get my truck serviced at. They, uh, you know, it was a little bit of an upgrade to have them grease everything with Schaefer's, but the Schaefer's, the 219, their green grease there, man, that waterproof and all. But even today, when we do a kingpin job and do anything, if I'm greasing somebody's truck for them, and I'm working on, it's all I buy. I mean, I go up here and I've got a dealer for them, and I buy a case at a time. But their grease is very good, and I used it for many years. The boutique oils I never really got into. Because when we used to send off some stuff and get labs and stuff done, you know, and when I learned a little bit about the oils, you know, even synthetic oils, there's some now made from the, you know, natural gas and stuff for the automotive cars and all, but even synthetics none of the oils were a true full synthetic, right? So they're all made from the same oil coming out from the dinosaurs that's been in the ground for millions of years. The biggest difference with the oils is the additive packages. They all have, you know, they have their own additive package to the oil. And I know zinc is very good for a diesel engine, for any engine. And the Rotella has the highest amount of zinc in, unless some have changed in the last year or so. But the Rotella, they always had a higher levels of zinc in them than even Mobile Delvac and some others. And I used to run the Mobile Delvac all the time, and but switched over and all just because the zinc does help protect and all somewhere in the engines, a little higher level. But you know the boutique oils I used to run. We used to be into motocross and dirt biking and ATVs and all that, and I would run some of their products and some of the off-road stuff and everything. And I can't really tell if there was a big advantage to it or not, but you know the like Royal Purple and all of them, they all kind of got people that buy them and others that don't and everything else. And but how do we really prove with any oils, as long as they meet the API certification, that one is that much better than the other or worth all that extra cost? Like with my cats and my Detroits and stuff, if I got 1.2, 1.3 out of them or close to that, needing an end frame, would have running that boutique oil got me another 100,000 miles, before I needed to do it? I don't know. So, so I never really kind of talked about oils as much as I did the other stuff, because how do we really prove that?
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what I did. I was a trainer for a tanker outfit. We pulled smoothbore hazmat. They had
Yeah.
about 1,000 trucks. And I've been a trainer for them for a few years. And the truck I had about 480,000 on it. And the same one with the Cummins that I was talking about. And they decided, oh, we're going to get you a brand new T680. It's got that radar and the cameras. I said, no, you ain't getting me that. I said, I'm not driving it. Well, that's what we're getting ready to trade that truck off. I said, well, consider the day you trade it the day I quit. I said, so you got more than 2 weeks notice. You quit? I said, you're damn right I'm going to quit. I've been doing this too damn long. You got me out here trusting me enough to train guys, but you want me to have a damn radar and a camera watching me and all that? I said, no, I ain't doing it. Not interested. I said, I'll do it, but I'm going to send a security team out to your house, and I'm going to put a damn camera in every room in your house. But don't worry, I'll only look at it if the house catches on fire. Well, that's, you can't. I said, see, it's okay for you to spy on me and invade my privacy, but it ain't
Right.
okay when I'm talking about you. I said, so hell no, we're not doing that. And they said, well, only other option, if you want to stay with the company, and I really liked them, they paid great, we'll just sell you that old truck on lease to own. And I said, all right, by God, we'll just have to do that, because I'm not driving one with cameras, forget it. So they sold it to me on a lease. The terminal manager at that time was a really good friend of mine, loved me to death. We got along great. I was the golden child. I was the best trainer they had and best driver and all this other crap. As soon as I bought that truck, wasn't 2 months later, he got a promotion. They moved him to Milwaukee to the home office. And I'm down in Kentucky stuck with a damn knucklehead now that don't know nothing. And they ended up jerking me around with every load. Every time you turn around, it's something stupid. They finally pissed me off enough. I went there one day and I told them, I said, you're going to do this one more time. I'm telling you now, one more. And I'm going to bring you a cashier's check, and you're going to strip your shit, including that pump, off of that truck that day. Well, sure enough, about a month later, they pulled it again. I told them, I said, send me to the house. They sent me to the house. I went and got a cashier's check, drove back to the terminal the next day, slapped it on his desk. I said, there it is. I want a title, and I want your shit off my truck. Well, I don't even know how to go about this. We've never had anybody pay one off. I said, no, I guess you ain't the way you screw people around. I said, but you
Right.
got me messed up. You're not going to jerk me around. Ain't happening. I'll wear this truck out, won't have no money to show for it, and then I'll have a wore-out truck that needs a $30,000 end frame and no money to do it. Ain't happening. No, we're done here. Get your shit off my truck. So when I bought the truck on the lease before I quit, the terminal manager that was my buddy, he said, man, since the day I signed the papers, he said, I'm going to give you a 60-day warranty on it. He said, anything happens to that truck at all, just call and we'll pay to fix it. I said, yep, that'll work. Well,
Yeah.
when it come time to change the oil, I thought, well, you know what? I'm getting ready to change oil filters, fuel filters, and all this stuff. I'm a big believer in seafoam, always have been. So I took the main fuel filter off of that thing. They had the canister filters on them. They didn't have the cartridges. And I filled that that fuel filter, plumb full of I had a whole gallon of it. I filled it completely full of seafoam and put it on. The engine was already hot. I filled it full of seafoam, put it on, run it about 5 minutes and shut it off and let it sit in what they call a hot soak for about 30 minutes on them injector tips. Fired that thing up and I drove it for about 5 minutes. Well, it only took about 5 minutes. I drove it about 30 minutes, but 5 minutes into my drive, I pulled up to a stop sign, and I shit you not, I had to look at the tachometer because I thought the engine died. That's how smooth it was idling. I drove that truck for years, and it had never, ever idled anywhere close to idling that smooth. Now, the only danger in doing something like that, if you're listening, if there's enough carbon and stuff built up on the tips of those injectors, and you flush them with seafoam, and a chunk of that carbon breaks off, and it gets lodged in that valve seat again between the valve and the valve seat, and the valve don't shut all the way, you got problems. But since I had a 60-day warranty, I rolled it. I said, hell with it. I'm going to do it. It's either going to clean it up, it's going to run better and get better fuel mileage, or it's going to burn a valve out of it, and they're going to fix it anyway. So I ain't got no skin in the game. Let's try it. So I did it, and it worked. And it had a Thermo King APU on it. And I don't even know how many thousands of hours was on that. But that thing, man, you lay in the bunk and it would shake the whole truck. I mean, just shake, rattle, and roll. I did the same thing with it. Pulled the fuel filter off, put a new one on, and when I did, I filled her full of seafoam and run it, did the same thing. And within about 2 to 3 fuel filter changes later of keeping on flushing it with seafoam, you couldn't even hear, you could hear it running, but you couldn't feel it running. You lay in that truck and it just as smooth as silk, like a sewing machine.
Well,
But that Schaefer's, they've got what they call a 137 ND. They've got 2 versions of it. They got a summer one and a winter one, and it's a fuel additive, and it'll treat up to a gallon jug of it will treat 2,000 gallons of fuel. And you just got to know about how much fuel you're putting on. I had a little measuring flask, and I just put so many ounces for so many gallons that I knew I was adding. Every time I fuel, I just started using that in the middle of the summer. And man, you wouldn't believe. I ended up getting about 3/4 of a mile to a gallon better using that. And they say what it does is it chemically reacts with the hydrocarbon chains in the diesel, and it alters them some way to where when it is atomized when it runs through that injector and gets atomized in the cylinder, it's a finer mist, and the combustion is a lot better, and it's a lot cleaner burn, and you don't end up with a bunch of soot pack in your EGR valve and having to clean the DPF every 200,000 miles and all that. It's supposed to make all that go a whole lot longer between having to mess with it. It boosted the seating just a little bit, but that better atomization, that's where all the extra fuel mileage come from. And it pulls any moisture out of the tanks and fuel, and it's got some kind of a synthetic lubricant in it to where it actually helps lubricate your injectors and your pump and all that better. I started using that stuff in that truck at about 500,000, and when I traded it off, sold it, it had about 890,000 on it, and it was still running fine. I'd never had to change an injector, anything. I had no trouble with the fuel system whatsoever.
yeah.
And the only reason I got rid of it then, because you know as well as I do, you can have clean oil samples and it can be running great, but once you get on up there 900,000 miles in a Cummins, you're about ready for an end frame, because
Right.
those pistons and cylinders will wear enough, those piston skirts start slapping around, and then before you know it, you got one thrown through the side of the block.
And the old Detroits and stuff too, man. If you got one or you got up close to 1,000,000 miles, man, it was you were starting to get blow by and all pretty good, and start using all the old 12.7s, even the old 11 liters. And if you weren't adding a gallon of oil every 10,000 miles, you're thinking there was something wrong, you know.
Yep. And the bull gears on them
Yeah,
60 series bull gears is always a notorious.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Always need to keep an eye on them. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, where'd everybody fall off to?
Not real sure.
I probably jabbering and bored them to death. They probably fell asleep.
Hell no,
Well,
you and Rocky keep talking. I'm sitting here with a notebook taking notes.
We got 7 of us in here, so I mean, there's quite a few of us in here. I'm just over here finishing up a new rulemaking I'm about to submit. So,
One other thing about maintenance, I just happened to think of too. They make a little test kit. I always had just look like a little aspirin bottle, and it had little strips in it, and you can actually dip that in your antifreeze, and it'll tell you how your antifreeze, what kind of life your antifreeze has too, corrosion inhibitors and things like that. It'll tell you a lot about how good a shape your antifreeze is in.
Yeah, yeah, and those worked, especially if you were running the green antifreeze in the old engines, and but nowadays with the extended life antifreeze with all the stuff in it, you don't get the cavitation and stuff like you used to. And I used to dump them and put new in about every 3 years. I would just dump them and get rid of it, because I had bought a truck years ago that had was running green
You want to wave hi?
antifreeze.
What?
You want to wave hi to him?
No.
But that green antifreeze, man, if you didn't check the nitrates and stuff in it,
Mm-hmm.
check the levels, and if it was low, you better get you a bottle of that shit and add it to the damn reservoir into the radiator, because man, that stuff, we pulled the liners out of one, and man, let me tell you, I don't know how the truck was running, because they were pitted so bad, and holes almost eaten completely through on the jacket side, and from the outside in, man, I don't know how that thing held together, but that damn green antifreeze, and guys not checking it, and who knows, it may have had water running in it at one time before I had bought it and everything. But 3176 Caterpillar, little 350 horse cat, and that damn thing, I don't know how it stayed running, but inside the engine was a disaster, man, from that. But I know guys that ain't never done it a million miles and have never changed the coolant or anything. They think it's just there, and it's there, They don't realize that there's additives and stuff, anti-corrosion stuff, and everything in it that, it wears out. Yeah, it's a closed system, but, them things with all the heat and cool cycles and stuff, those additives go away, man. You're destroying the inside of your engine.
Yep.
But not good for them either. So, but that's one thing, with the coolants, with the extended life coolants and stuff in them, and even in my personal vehicles with the extended life coolants in them. I just did a truck my wife drives there not long ago, getting close to 100,000 miles on it, and did all that, and the hoses and everything, and
Yep.
the coolant and.
All these newer engines, even the truck engines, you got to be careful though when you go to draining and flushing coolant through them and draining it out. You got a lot of places where you can trap air, man. You can run an engine quick.
Yep. Oh yeah.
You got to purge all the air out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the new automotive vehicles, they may have something out now for even the trucks, but they've got these devices where you put it on the reservoir, the radiator, and it creates a vacuum. You'll see all your hoses and everything suck in.
Yep.
And there's this reservoir tank type thing that goes on top, and it's full of coolant. So when you release that vacuum, the coolant is there, and the system sucks in all the coolant, and also you're not like pouring in and all that air. It sucks all the air out of the system.
Yep, they
Some,
use the same type of vacuum system like on big trucks too.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure they got one for the big trucks, but I just haven't seen it. Oh, haven't had any trucks on the road in been a year now since I sold the last one.
I tell you
That
what,
was
we're talking about guys getting educated on things about, learning how to buy fuel correctly and stuff, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. These schools that they come out of, man, they don't teach them anything really. I mean, they teach them just enough to get their license, and that's it. Then
that's
they go
it.
out with a trainer for a few weeks, which in my notion ain't long enough. But a lot of these big companies now that hire these trainees right out of school, the trainer might not have 4, 5, 6 months experience herself, and they don't even know
Right.
what they're doing. So then you got the blind leading the blind, and then they wonder why all these guys get out here and don't know what to do. Well, that's why.
Yeah.
And they talk
Yeah.
about, one of my biggest damn pet peeves, and I know it may sound silly, but they'll talk about, oh, it's a bridge law. 41 foot in California, that's a bridge law. That is not a damn bridge law. That is a KPRA law. It's a state law. Not all states even have it. Matter of fact, the only state west of the Mississippi River really that has a KPRA law is California. You get out in the Midwest out through there, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, none of them give a shit where you run your tandem. And
Yeah.
a thing too you can do, I've seen a bunch of guys get blowed over with high winds, and every time, if you'll look, their trailer tandem is slid all the way up or very close to all the way forward. When
Yeah.
you're out there like that on them plains and that wind is blowing, slide that trailer tandem as far back as you can get it. The further you move that trailer tandem back, it shifts that wind shear and distributes it equally between the tractor and the trailer. When you've got that tandem all the way forward, you're putting way more wind shear lateral force on just the trailer tandem. If you look,
Yeah.
that's 9 times out of 10. I got the tandem all the way up. And an old timer taught me that when I first started. He said, son, if you take and slide that tandem all the way back, you'd be amazed how much better that's going to ride, and the wind ain't going to blow you around. And I tried it, and he wasn't lying. Sure enough, I was watching these guys, trailers lifting and stuff, and I looked in my mirror, and just straight as an arrow. Never bothered me.
Another big issue, talking about being blown over. These guys don't read the overhead digital signs we have nowadays telling them wind advisory, light load, you must park it, right? And what do? They keep on going. They got 5,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds in the box, and get blown over. Oh, I didn't see that sign. So they don't even read and pay attention to the road signs that are out there nowadays for these guys to read and have information and be aware that, hey, I got a light load, man. I only got 10,000 pounds in the box. I better stop so I don't get blown over.
Yep.
Yeah, but they got to stop letting the truck drive themselves and staring at their phone the whole damn day.
Right. Yep. You have no idea how many
It's
trucks I pull up to every day that I'll pull up there and there's an iPad mount on the windshield, not for their log device, but they pull up there and there's a movie playing and they just pulled off the interstate and pulled in here to the shop or whatever I'm going to be working on their truck at with a movie playing, got Netflix on. And it's like, what are you
well,
doing, man?
Yep.
be happy you could see inside their truck at the time, because anymore going down the road, the curtain's halfway up a damn door.
That's why they have it up there, so that somebody can't see that they're watching a movie.
Yep. I was training a guy. He was driving. I was sitting in the shotgun seat. We're going down the road. This truck in front of us, he kept speeding up, slowing down. He'd swerve here, he'd swerve there, brake lights, he'd speed up. I said, man, I don't know what in the hell this guy's doing, but hurry up and just drop a hammer and let's get on around this idiot. And as we went by him, it was a young guy, probably early 20s, sitting there, had his left foot on the dash with his left knee up in the window on the edge of the door, and was watching a damn football game. going down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why
I
we have all these wrecks, and these guys talk about the non-domicile, this and that. Well, I got news for them. It ain't just them.
No.
It's not just them. There's more wrecks, every year. A combination of all of them. Is it 70 some people a day die on the roads in the U.S. From in an accident, and they're not just the foreign guys causing these accidents. It's everybody, man. But they want to blame it. Oh, it's just them. Never mind me watching a movie while I'm driving an 80,000-pound rig down the road all day long, not paying attention.
Yep. Well, and too, part of that is due to these mega carriers always screaming driver shortage. Well, yeah, they've got a shortage of new, naive people that they can take full advantage of. That's what there's a shortage of.
That's what, yep.
And these schools are in bed with them to push out anybody that can see over the steering wheel. They're going to get a CDL no matter what, because these companies are giving them kickback on top of what they're charging for the school to the student. That's what's happening there. I used to teach truck driving years ago. It probably been 20, 25 years ago. I went to work for a school. Matter of fact, it was the same school I went to and got my CDL. And I happened to run into the old boy that owned the school. And got to talking to him. He said, man, what are you doing? I said, well, I work for U.S. Food Service. I pull doubles for U.S. Food Service. He said, you doing that all the time? I said, well, 4 days a week. We work about 15, 16-hour days. All we can do is 4 days. He said, are you off on the weekends? I said, yeah, I'm off on Wednesdays, and I'm off on Saturdays and Sundays. He said, well, if you want to come to work on the weekends, he said, I'd pay you good to come over and help teach. I was like, well, what all does that involve? I said, I can't just, he said, well, Kentucky's funny. He said, you got to get certified. He said, it looks like a New York City phone book. He said, but I remember you from school. He said, I don't doubt you can do it. I said, well, I'll swing by there one day and get the book, and I'll see. And I went by there, and he wasn't kidding, man. That was about 2.5-inch thick book. You had to know it cover to cover to get certified to be a CDL instructor. And I passed all that and went to work for him. And he ran a reputable school. If you wasn't cutting it, he'd give you 2 weeks, a week of school and a week on the yard. And if you wasn't cutting it and figuring stuff out, he could pretty well already tell you wasn't going to make it. And he would put them on the bus left and right. You'd start out with probably 20 or 25, and I'd say about half of them ended up graduating. About a 50% graduation rate. And the reason being is because, contrary to popular belief, you have to be intelligent and you have to have a lot of damn common sense, and you got to be able to be thinking 10 steps ahead of what you're doing right now. And not that many people was capable of it even 20 years ago. And nowadays, common sense is definitely not common. So that's what you're left with.
I will tell you, it's really hard to find drivers nowadays. It's hard.
Yeah, very hard to find a good driver, or even one that really wants to learn.
I mean, you can find one that's got the heat all day long, but that's all you get.
Yeah, I drive my wife nuts. She hates it because I'm always trying to think 10, 15 steps ahead of what I'm doing. And even if we go on vacation, I've got it all planned out to the T before we ever leave home. And it just drives her batshit crazy. She's like, oh my God, you take the fun out of everything. Just quit worrying about everything and just have fun. I'm like, I am having fun. But I'm always thinking ahead, and I can't stop that. Over the years, that's just what I learned to do. My brain become accustomed to always thinking, what am I going to do if this, and this happens? I need a plan B, C, D, E, and E. So that's just how I work.
Yep. Well, folks, I've been on here for I don't even know, 8 hours probably.
Yeah.
I'm ready for bed. I'm not even gonna lie. I haven't even eaten dinner yet, so I'm gonna go maybe eat something, and I'm gonna call it a night. So I do appreciate everybody coming in, though, talking. It's been very, very interesting. So
I appreciate you guys letting me come in and talk. Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Anytime, bud. Anytime.
Anytime. Yep.
I learned a lot from you.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out. And yeah, I missed a bunch of it there earlier and was on with Sarah for a bit. And then I got home and I said, I got to go clean up and get me a shower and come out and turned it on. And you were up there. So still, I didn't know you'd be on this long today. But yeah, go ahead, get you something to eat and have a good night and get some rest.
Yep. I will talk to y'all later. Have a good night, y'all.
Yep. All right.
night.
Good night, y'all. Bye.